Welcome. We'll be getting started in just a moment. Welcome, everybody. We'll be getting started shortly. Welcome, Gary. We can begin.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Danny. So welcome everyone to the second webinar the Jewish Federations of North America is holding on the current war. I'm Gary Torgo, chair of the board. These have been very trying days for Israel and the Jewish people everywhere. Our hearts go out to the millions of Israelis under almost constant missile attack and can't even begin to imagine the mental anguish this is causing to so many. We also continue to mourn the Israeli civilians killed in missile strikes, as well as the U.S. servicemen and women who have fallen. Of course, there are many unknowns right now: how long the war will last, will the regime survive, will other countries be drawn into the conflict, and will the missiles keep falling on Israel, and so much more that's going on. In these webinars, we hope that we can give some valuable information, and we've invited some terrific people to come on. And today we're very privileged to be joined by retired Colonel Miri. She is chair of the board at the Taub Center and a senior fellow at the International Institute for Counterterrorism at the Reichman University in Herzliya. During her 20-year career in the IDF, Colonel Eisen served in a variety of positions in military intelligence, and in all of her positions, she was the first woman to serve in such a capacity. After retiring from the military, Colonel Eisen served as the Israeli government spokesperson during the Second Lebanon War in 2006, and also as the Prime Minister's international press secretary. We are extremely grateful to you, Miri, for joining us today. I'd like to invite our President and CEO, Eric Fingerhut, to have a moderated session with you, and then we will take some time for questions. Colonel Eisen, thank you for joining. And Eric, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Gary, and thanks for your leadership. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Colonel Eisen, Miri, which she's always told me to call her, thank you for making yourself available to us once again. We really appreciate it. And I also want to just reiterate what Gary said. There's a Q&A function, as everybody knows by now, on your Zoom page. And if you submit questions, we will get to them shortly after a beginning conversation. Danny Wassner of our team will read all the questions and group them together, because we typically get more than one similar question, and we'll pose those questions. So please submit your questions through the Q&A function. Miri, Gary said that you served in a variety of positions in the Israeli military intelligence. And one of those positions, I remember from our previous conversation, included the intelligence officer of the Northern Command, and especially in the Airborne Division of the Northern Command. And since the big development of the last 36 hours, I'm not even sure the exact time right now, was the entry of Hezbollah into the war. And the response of the Israel Defense Forces to that entry, including, as we read here, ground troops actually entering Lebanon, which, for all of those of us who've been through the previous Lebanon wars and the battles with Hezbollah, we know what a dangerous and difficult mission that is. So can we start there? Would you tell us what's happening on the northern border? What did Hezbollah do? What is our response? What do you think? What do you think our aim is, and where does it stand right now?
So first of all, thank you for the question. And Eric, thank you for inviting me. It's always wonderful to be able to talk with the Jewish Federations. And I just was at the end of a trip where I'm sure that there are lots of people that I just saw a few weeks ago in the States, and they kept asking me, when is it going to start? And I said, I don't know. So it started. Now you know. Let's talk about Hezbollah. Iran, in the last time that Israel attacked in Iran, and also then in a joint portion with the United States in June of 2025, there was that question of what was Hezbollah going to do because they were already in a ceasefire and they did nothing in June of 2025. And when Israel and the United States initiated now this attack against Iran, against the Islamic regime on Saturday, February 28th, the big question was, what will Hezbollah do? And Hezbollah did nothing on Saturday and did nothing on Sunday. And on Saturday, on Sunday, and even on Monday, and today it's already Wednesday, in Lebanon, Eric, the Lebanese government had outlawed Hezbollah from using any of their capabilities. And they actually said, they're disallowing Hezbollah to have any kind of military capabilities. And yesterday, Hezbollah made a choice, and it's a clear-cut choice. It's not about being Lebanese. It's not about the best for Lebanon. And even for their own people who live in Lebanon, it's about supporting Iran. And they initiated a series of different attacks from yesterday, and they made a strategic decision. And for the first time in my life, I'm going to say about Hezbollah, I think that they made a strategic miscalculation. Because if there's one thing that Israel and the IDF wanted to do after the ceasefire with Hezbollah in November of 2024 was to continue to take out the remnants. It's not small remnants, it's real capabilities. They're firing at Israel right now that Hezbollah still has. So when Hezbollah started by firing missiles, rockets, and drones into Israel, and they have the capability, they have in and around 20%, maybe 30% left of what they had before the last 2.5 years. I should talk in numbers, let's say 20,000 rockets, or I should say 20,000 different type of projectiles, drones, and others. What Israel is doing now is actively making sure that we attack those different places in all of Lebanon. But the biggest threat was that when Hezbollah chose to go in yesterday, and they chose, and they did that, as I said, missiles, rockets, and drones, Israel said this time, we're not going to let them close to the border do any kind of ground attack. If you remember the term Radwan forces. And so the Israeli Defense Forces have gone into southern Lebanon again. They are most definitely preempting against any kind of Radwan, which is one of the Radwan forces of Hezbollah, to try to do something against northern Israel. As the chief of staff said, there's not going to be an evacuation of communities in Israel, not this time. We will go in and make sure that they are protected. Israel gave a 24-hour warning. And today, in a very exceptional way, they gave a warning to all of the Lebanese who live south of the Litani River that they all need to leave to go north of that river. We're talking about probably, 100,000, if not more, because not all have come back since the end of the direct confrontation. So that's where we are right now with Hezbollah. Israel on the offensive, Hezbollah miscalculation. Yes, they're trying to attack. Yes, there have been sirens. Yes, there are drones, but we're not talking about the capacities that we thought. And what we're doing is going on the offensive against them.
So just to be clear, that the goal of the ground forces is to clear the area up to Litani River so we don't have to evacuate the northern communities again. They're not going to do more than that, you don't think? The rest is going to be done from the air?
I don't think that we'll even arrive the whole way to the Litani River. I think that we're going to be going to all the different specific sites that over the last year, since Israel and Hezbollah were in this ceasefire, non-ceasefire, that Israel said that they still had all sorts of arsenals of weapons of Radwan south of the Litani. The Lebanese armed forces said that they were taking care of them. Israel did not believe the Lebanese armed forces, did not believe UNIFIL. We're going to all those different sites to make sure that they don't have the type of weaponry to be able to do a ground attack like the October 7th attack from Lebanon into Israel. And that's to prevent any kind of evacuation of Israelis from the northern border.
So they should be safe and accomplish their mission and come back home quickly. Let's talk about how the war with Iran is going from the perspective of Israel. So, we're in a unique position in America during this war because this is an American-led military initiative, and we're hearing a lot about the American objectives here in America. And we'll probably have a future webinar where we delve even deeper into the American military objectives and the progress. But with your experience and your expertise, help us understand from Israel's perspective, what do you identify as the main objectives militarily with Iran, and how's it going so far, and how much? Where do you think we are in the process?
Israel very clearly defined this as a preventive attack, and that it is against the Islamic, as Israel defined it together with CENTCOM, together with the United States, the Islamic terror regime. So, Eric, we're talking here that Israel, from the beginning, very clearly defined that it's about the regime and it's against the terrorist regime and all of its terror capabilities. Those terror capabilities include the nuclear that we've already talked about, and so it's not that it's on the side. There's still portions to be dealt with a little bit, but it's about the missiles. It's about the missile production, the launchers, the drones, the manufacturing, and all of that being supplied to proxies. So what is Israel doing in its clear-cut aspect? You have to achieve air superiority. And that's been done over the last 5 days. And I really want to say, I think after 5 days, we're almost at that term, which I find it hard to believe, but of absolute air superiority over Iran, 1,000 miles away from Israel. I want to remind everybody, but together with the United States and inside Iran right now, what Israel and the US are targeting are the sites of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the sites of the Islamic regime that are the parts that are so much part of that Iranian Revolutionary Guard, meaning it's both the figures themselves, that opening attack when Israel took out 40 of very top regime and Iranian Revolutionary Guard personnel, in addition to the ones that we had done in June of last year, and then missiles, ballistic missiles, drones, manufacturing sites, all of these different places, but add into it that what Israel has also been doing, and I say it clearly, they've been stating it very clearly, that it's against the regime, it's against their terror capabilities, it's against what they give to the proxies, and now we're acting against Hezbollah. But Israel and the United States have also been attacking the sites inside Iran where this Islamic terror regime terrorizes its own people, meaning police, that domestic police, the ones that have been killing their own people over the last few months, tens of thousands of people that were protesting the besiege. They've been attacking their headquarters, their different sites. And this is not only in Tehran, it's in lots of different sites throughout Iran. So I think that gives a whole list of the targets and the aim. In Israel, both the prime minister and the defense minister have clearly said regime change. Nobody has said exactly how that comes about. Prime minister said what basically we're doing is enabling for the Iranian people by destroying the capabilities of the terror regime, of that domestic security police, of the different weaponries and proxies that they use to enable them to try and change the regime inside Iran.
So you certainly know that the term regime change is a loaded term in America, heavily utilized in political debate, generally as a negative, to say this is impossible for a country like America, in this case, to come in and affect regime change so far away. You point out Iran is 1,000 miles away from Israel. It's probably culturally worlds away from Israel. We understand how Israel could, and America together, could try to destroy the police stations and even the forces that are oppressing the people. And shortly after this terrible massacre occurred, after the uprising, no one will in any way wish that they would stop against those forces. But still, the ability to bring down a regime and have something in its place that's better and more amenable to its own people and to the region, including Israel. I think Americans enter that conversation with a lot of skepticism. So what do you think Israel's thinking in terms of, okay, we can bomb these police stations. How does it actually come down, the government and the regime? And then what takes its place in Israel's perspective?
As you're asking the question and making the statement itself, and I'm thinking, how do I, stop my own skepticism in that sense? Because I've stated very clearly over the last few days, as I've been asked in international media, and as I said, no boots on the ground. I want to remind everybody, Iran is a country of 93 million people. This isn't about putting boots on the ground and doing regime change. But there have been very clear voices inside Iran that don't want this Islamic regime. Regime change for me, Eric, enough for me would be to have a leader of Iran that would not put as number one the annihilation of Israel, let alone call us the cancerous tumor in the world that needs to be removed. Okay, it's like let Iran be about Iran and its religion and its culture. It doesn't have to put me and my annihilation as its number one idea, together with arming the proxies, exporting that ideology, and in its own way, I would say expanding on the psychological side, or what we call information warfare, certainly part of the horrific anti-Israel, anti-Zionist sentiment worldwide is everybody quoting the Iranians right now. And for that, meaning a regime change doesn't automatically mean that it's somebody who loves me, but can it be somebody who doesn't see me as the cancerous tumor of the world that needs to be removed? And that's something that's going to happen domestically, not by anybody from the outside. It isn't the same as the other events that the United States is looking at right now. And as I said, I strongly hope that inside Israel, the decision makers don't think that we can actually do that. Iran has a lot of different voices. They are already in their third generation, meaning it's 47 years since the revolution. That means that you already have people in their 50s, okay? Think of it in your own terms, in their 50s that have lived their entire life under this regime. And what the Iranian people are saying is not necessarily that they are for Israel, but they are against the fact that they have no water, they have no electricity. In a country that's 93 million strong, that can send supersonic ballistic missiles to attack Israel and hit in Tel Aviv and kill people, but they don't have running water because they haven't built any type of system in the changing climates that's been happening. So I'm just saying these are aspects that have to come up. I don't have a better answer for that one there. I don't think that it's going to be us going in or the United States going in. I think that that's a horrible idea.
You were an intelligence officer and an intelligence leader in military intelligence. I assume you won't tell us things we shouldn't know, but given the extent to which Israeli intelligence has clearly penetrated the upper echelons of Iranian government, as witnessed by the beginning of this war, which annihilated the top leadership of Iran. There was obviously massive intelligence success there. Should we assume that there are contacts going on with people who could assume that kind of role, not to love us, but to at least make Iran about the Iranians?
Eric, it's a great question, but I'm going to divide it into two different parts. The type of intelligence that you need to be able to target and take out, that's Miri not saying kill, right? Okay. Target and take out. The different terror elements inside a regime are different from the type of intelligence that you gather and create and need to be able to build an alternative. It's not the same kind. And I say that because in today's technological world, when you're talking about the different types of missiles, drones, facilities, nuclear, hierarchy, at the end, I kind of want to show everybody, all of us use our phone. We're all out there. There's difference in our capabilities of how we gather intelligence, put together targeting, put together a program, and between our capability to find different people who want to do regime change. I'm always very wary of that. I absolutely think that there are assets and there can be assets on the ground and you want them to be able to enable you to do things. I don't think that they're the same ones who are going to go out and necessarily change the regime. But within the regime itself, not all of them in the regime are hardliners. Even to get to a type of regime where, again, the hardliners in that sense are the ones that look at it in a very conservative, religious, harsh, extreme, oppressed way. And Khamenei was at the head of that. And he was old and he was set in his ways. And right now, there's going to be a change of regime, and it may be his son, who's also considered to be hardline, but at the end, he's in his 50s. And I just say that in that sense, that generational change itself could bring about a different regime, which is not as extreme hardline export proxy oriented. And again, I don't want to be Pollyanna and hope for the best. In the meantime, what I want to do is try to destroy as much as possible the capabilities that they built over these last 20, 40 years, pretty much unsupervised, and supply them to the proxies and to take care of the proxies so that they're not the destabilizing force in the Middle East. But no, I don't think that we can do so through intelligence.
Right. Thank you. All right, let's change subjects. Another thing that you would certainly have a better perspective on in the region, but we're reading a lot about, is the impact of the attacks that Iran is launching against the countries in the Gulf and everywhere, Cyprus, all around. The wishful thinking here is that this is building a broader, more unified coalition against Iran. That it's not succeeding in Iran dividing, turning them into into people who want to force the U.S. and Israel to end the operation, but rather the reverse is happening. Is that right? And also just bottom line, Taklos, how much damage are they doing? In these countries, we see Dubai attack hitting, and we see Bahrain and other places, and of course, these are places by now, since the Abraham Accords have been in place for many years, that many of us have visited and have grown to see them as allies, and are sorry to see them under attack.
So first of all, we are absolutely sorry to see them under attack. They're allies of Israel. They're allies of us within this Jewish world. The Abraham Accords have opened up so much. And I've done a lot of media, as I said, over the last 5 days, and I'm constantly with lovely, mainly women, both from Bahrain and from UAE. And as they describe what's happening there, and they're all in shock. And I kind of listen to them and say, I feel sorry for them because at least I kind of know what they're going through, right? Okay, there aren't a lot of places that can do so. So Iran chose from Saturday immediately to attack all of the neighboring countries in the sense that they're nearby. On the other side of the Gulf in that sense, because it's Bahrain, it's UAE. They've attacked Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia. You mentioned Cyprus today. There was a missile that was intercepted over Turkey by NATO. We're talking about a very broad expanse. And so what you said is that, so now everybody's against Iran. And I'm going, yes. But the Iranians are very good at what they do, because what's happening right now is Qatar is closing down its export of gas. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is closing down its export of oil. And when that happens, Eric, what happens is that the world yells, not just the United States, where your oil prices are going up, and gas inside Europe in that sense, because it's used there mainly more domestically. When you look at that, it's called Iran, am going to impact Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Oman. And in a moment, I'll get to UAE and Bahrain because they're soft powers. And so basically what they're doing is killing their tourism, killing their sense of security, showing that, like all of you people who go there, it isn't really like that. So that all of these countries are going to come to the United States and say, stop the war. It's stopping our economy. It's stopping our sense of security. You have to stop it now so that we can export again. So it isn't just a question of putting together now everybody's against Iran. It's also having all of these different countries putting much more pressure on the United States, on European countries, on whoever they can to stop the war as quickly as possible because it's affecting them directly. And I say that because we need to be aware that in that sense, it's that double-edged sword. We have a lot in common now. It's unbelievable to see what the United Arab Emirates has received on the receiving end in the last 5 days. Okay, they're already at the stage. They've actually had way more missiles fired at them, drones, but that's also, it has to do with distance because they're close. They're just on the other side of the Persian Gulf. They don't need the long-range ballistic missiles to reach from Iran to get where they are, but they've been getting ballistic missiles, supersonic missiles, the shorter range ones. And they're not, I don't want to say they're not built like us. I wish nobody was built like us in that sense. They have shelters. They've tried to do different things. I've been listening both in Bahrain and UAE because they've been the both that have been targeted the most. As I said, that's the soft spot. It's called impact them. After it ends, the question is then what happens? Will these Arab states, because it becomes Arab versus Persian, Iran is Persian, the Arabic states in the Gulf, it's not so much about the Sunni Shiite as much as perhaps the Arab Persian, what they will do after. And that very much depends on how this war ends. And so it's hard for me to say at the moment, but I think that Iran here is doing a tactic to strategically make them stop the war as quickly as possible.
So I want to come back to that last comment because I think this could impact America obviously directly, but just to be clear, in UAE and Bahrain, do they have missile defense of any kind? I mean, shelters, but because if they're closer and they're getting the large number of incoming that you're describing, this is really a dangerous and horrific situation if they don't have the missile defenses that Israel has.
It is. I mean, I'm showing all sorts of different things. So I'm looking at it on my screen right now. UAE air defenses successfully confront Iranian missile and drone attacks. And they put out, because they're putting out these infographics every day, that they have stopped, destroyed 755 drones, meaning they have the capacity to do so, that they have destroyed 8 cruise missiles, that they destroyed 172 ballistic missiles. They have systems that they've both bought from the United States of America, other systems that are sold out and about in that sense. I mean, they're part of they're part of the area that the U.S. is in. There are U.S. air bases in and around that area with those defenses. But all of these countries, both Bahrain, UAE, Oman for that matter, Kuwait, all of them have air defense missile systems that they're using right now extensively. And as it happens here, we're better at it perhaps than them. So we intercept more. We're also further away. We're also getting very heavy duty ones. So yes, they have capabilities, but they definitely are vulnerable.
Good. Well, it's good to hear that they have some capabilities. So let me just come back to the economic pressure point that you made, because this is certainly something that's in the headlines here in America. You know, if the Strait of Hormuz is closed, if oil prices go up and gasoline prices go up, and this is how the public will become affected by it, and hopefully, you know, and in their minds, in the minds of those pursuing these strategies, therefore increase the opposition to the war. Domestically. So it's a two-part question. One is this working? I mean, we're now 5 days in. If there's going to be an oil, I mean, I don't know the oil markets. I'm not a professional, but I understand there's a lot of speculation and future-oriented price changes that could have already been seen. And then secondly, I have to believe that U.S. and Israel understood that was one of the potential Iranian responses, and we're thinking about what the response to the economic pressure is. Do you have a sense of where that stands too? What is the response that comes to that kind of pressure?
It's a great question. It's not an easy one to answer because, as you said, it has a lot of different elements that come into it. Right now, as I was sitting before and I saw that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia said that they're stopping some of their oil production, that impacts the world. Earlier today, Qatar said that they're closing down their main gas, as I said, like turning it off, and that impacts the world. Now the question is going to be, when do they turn it back on? And they said that they're doing so preventive in that sense so that it wouldn't be hurt, attacked, or blown up by drones or missiles that are being fired from Iran. There is no easy answer to that. I think that one of the things that's happening is the air superiority over Iran, which is being done by US and Israel, is to bring about massive attacks against all of the ones that are attacking the Gulf countries. And that's being done a lot by the United States, both against the Navy sites, the Iranian Navy sites that are on the Gulf itself, but all of the different places that are nearby. That's what's being attacked all the time. And just like I see the lowering of the missiles as it's coming towards us, that's also against them. And Iran is specifically targeting them because they want to get that dividend. I don't have a good answer to that one there. I think that it will be very direct pressure, economic pressure. We haven't mentioned the unmentionable called China, because China relies extensively on the oil that comes out both from Iran and from that whole area, much more than other countries in that sense. So that China is going to be pressured by that as well, even though China has been trying to move into renewables because they were so reliant on oil. So these are definitely things. The bulk of that comes out, it impacts China, it impacts India. It actually doesn't impact the United States as much, but because it impacts China and India, it immediately has a ripple effect. So yes, I think all of those are going to be pressure, and that's going to very much impact the length of the war more than the aspect of the military targets, and certainly more than the aspect of regime change that I started with.
By the way, China's not unmentionable on these webinars. We've been discussing it, and you should certainly feel free to draw those lines for us. But that cuts both ways, right? If China's been getting their oil from Iran and we cut that off, then China might also pressure Iran to give in to some extent. But I take your answer. The U.S. destruction of the Navy, the Iranian Navy, and other steps are part of the effort to respond to that, and we presume that the markets are watching that just as they're watching the Iranian action. So thank you, Danny. I'm going to ask Miri one more question, then we're going to turn to you so you can start getting your questions ready. The number one question we get asked here, besides how is our family and friends doing, is when do we get to come to Israel again? Which I think is another way of asking the question: how long do we think this is going to last? We've been, obviously we had missions canceled and trips and people were planning, and but it's not about our inconvenience. It's just that we want to come and embrace and hug and be with our people. So what's your sense? The president said 4 to 5 weeks, maybe. What are they saying in Israel? Anything?
So we asked that question as well, and we, Eric, send it back to the United States and say, is it up to us? Is it up to the US? If it's up to Israel right now, I think that Israel has the longevity and the capability, certainly to sustain 5, 10, even 15 days. That's, going on into 2 weeks, because that would be impacting and effective in what we're doing, both against the Islamic regime in Iran, but also because of what we're doing now in Lebanon against Hezbollah. Meaning we could sustain that, okay? Now, if you do that for 5, 10, 15 days, you know how long it takes until everything really opens up again. But I want to be very clear. I could show you a graph, a very beautiful one that the Taub Center, that I'm the chair of, did in that sense, that shows that the missiles in that sense, it's like you can see the first day there were a lot, and as it goes on and down, just on the incoming missiles, because that impacts us. They're already talking about limited opening of the airport. At the moment, it's just to be able to get Israelis back home from tonight, from tomorrow. They're not yet talking about, both sides of you're being able to come on and in. But that's always the other impact, meaning if within days the missiles coming from Iran go down, that allows the international airport to be open. First, to get all of the people that got stuck here or got stuck there to be able to go to both sides. But it means to me that by the end of March, basically what I'm saying is that B'Shana B'Av Yerushalayim in Pesach isn't looking too good, okay? But after Pesach, it'll be that rerun of starting to build that up. And everything that I said right now, I'm looking from the Israeli perspective, because the US perspective can be different. It has to do, at the end, we're allies. We're looking at this in a similar way. We see the similar threats, but of course, we each have different pressures upon us. So that would be my best response to that one right now. That was Miri looking at her crystal ball that I don't really have.
Probably not Pesach, but we'll be there for cheesecake for Shavuos. According to Colonel Mary Eisen, you heard it here. Danny Wassner, what questions do you have from our chat?
Thanks, Eric. And as usual, we've got a lot of questions. Our audience is very, very engaged. By the way, there's almost 2,500 on this call, so a lot of questions. I've tried to group them into a few. The first one I've got here, actually, you sort of alluded to a moment ago. Iran seems to be taking a beating, and yet at the same time, there seem to be endless missiles and endless sirens in Israel. Does Iran have a lot of fight left in it?
Iran has a lot of fight left with it. I mean, when we say they're taking a beating, they are, but they're a country of 93 million people, and for the last 47 years, they've been building capabilities that have never been attacked. I'm going to say something which is going to, I don't want to bug people, but Hamas, right now, Hamas could fire missiles at us if they, I mean, we would intercept it, but Hamas still has missiles left. And that's after the last 2.5 years. Certainly, Iran has missiles. They built a stockpile. They had thousands. It takes a while, but you can see it as a graph that's going down.
Thank you. The next one is, what do you know about Israel's ability to defend against Hezbollah drones? And what about Iranian missiles? And
Say hello.
specifically, has the Iron Beam been used? And are there any reports on its effectiveness?
So I'm going to start with the iron beam because I really feel that our audience needs it. Okay, the iron beam was used and it blew drones out of the sky. Now, its effectiveness, remember, it's just become operational. It's the one that's the laser. It's the one that does not need to be replenished. It's the one that you don't have to have once you've built it, okay? Then you have it, and it sends out its little laser beams. It doesn't mean that it stops all of those lasers. It's a question I don't know how many we actually have right now, if we have one or if we have two, but that really is a game changer looking into the future. We're much better at hunting the drones. That doesn't make it perfect, and I want everybody to realize that, including with the iron beam. Every type of interceptor that you build, that means that they're going to try and get around it. And so it's constantly, we're really good at what we do. 90%, 95% means that 5 to 10% gets through. 98% means that 2% gets through. And I don't mean it in the statistics, I mean it in the real aspect. So we're doing very well, much better against drones. Iron Beam is actually active, but still expect some to get through.
Thank you. Next one, you said that Israel has air superiority with Iran, but being 1,000 miles from Israel with no Israeli aircraft carriers, how can Israel even make use of that air superiority?
Isn't it amazing? I'm sorry, every once in a while we kind of have to say that this war is really something else. Yes, we have to, the air superiority is of manned and unmanned airplanes in that sense. Okay, it's both UAVs and manned airplanes. If those who haven't heard today for the first time, the Israeli F-35, it's an American plane, but the Israeli Air Force downed an Iranian airplane in an air fight over Tehran. Okay, it's like I say the words and I'm like, I can't believe I'm saying that. So it's about the technology, the operational capability, the longevity in that sense of taking care of the airplanes, both the manned and unmanned, using the different technologies to make sure that you get there and you get back. You also, I mean, there are tankers that you can do along the way. You go, you come back, you land. The way that they've been presenting it from Israel is that they've been doing 3, 4, 5 sorties a day. You know, like you go, it takes you an hour or so to get there. You're there. It takes you an hour or so to get back. That's with manned. The unmanned take a little bit longer, but that's the way it's done. We did that in June, and it was surprising in June. That was Israel pretty much on its own. The United States was participating only in that nuclear aspect, not on the whole air superiority. And right now, together with the United States, because remember, they're there too, with aircraft carriers, with Air Force bases that are in the Gulf countries that are much, much closer. And there's I can't say it less than 100% cooperation, coordination between them. They're working jointly and together in that airspace over Iran today.
Okay, the next one I've got, the stock markets in Israel have been closed for Purim, but on Monday, the last day of full trading, um, the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange experienced its highest gains in 5 years. Not only that, but the shekel is up. So the question that somebody asked is, how is that even possible?
Our economy has been amazingly sustainable. I recommend to everybody go into the Taub Center to read a bit about that miracle, because one of the things is that we don't necessarily know to explain why and how. It's the combination that we're focused on high tech, on AI, on different things that are very much marketable within this world, even in today's day and age. Even while we're talking, they actually sold another Israeli AI company during this war, like yesterday, today. In Purim, we haven't been working in the last few days. We're all stuck close to our safe rooms. But in general, the economy it dipped a bit during the war, but it has recovered and it is absolutely looking into it's a better future and invest in Israel bonds as well.
Thank you. Eric, do I have time for one more? Thank you.
That was
I
a
have a
yes.
question. Thank you. We have a question here about it's often been said that there's no daylight between Israel and the US. Yet sometimes when you have good friends and they start working together, maybe they're going to partnership for business, things become a little bit more difficult. Is that possibly going to be the case here with the war, with the two countries literally fighting a war together?
I think that the militaries will not have that. I absolutely think that right now there are growing gaps between Israel and the United States that we both need to be aware of, and we need to highlight them. As somebody just in the last 5 days who does so much US media, because I do a lot of US media, so I hear the questions that I get from them in the way it's posed and the syncs that are shown about the different figures in the state. So I don't think that there's a problem between the militaries. Militaries have a very common language and work together, and really it's like brothers in arms. I do think that right now we have to talk a lot more about those gaps that are not little gaps, and they're important gaps to talk about the fact that we view this war as something that was needed, important. That doesn't make it nice and easy and good, but it was needed and important, that it's serving a very important existential purpose for us. In the way that it's viewed in large portions of the United States as being, like not a very good idea, to say the least. And so I highlight that gap because that one's growing. But I think that the military action is one that is brothers in arms and works strongly together.
Colonel Eisen, this is Gary Torgo. We're going to wrap up. I want to just say to you how appreciative we are, how impressed we are with your presentations on the national and international media. We're extremely grateful for your service. It was extremely helpful to hear from you today. Danny, we're thinking about you and your community and grateful for the work you're doing. And of course, Eric and the entire Jewish Federation of North America and the tremendous work you're doing. So thank you all very much. We're sorry we could probably keep you, Colonel Eisen, for another 2 hours, and we didn't get through all the questions, but we know you've got a job to do, and we appreciate everything you're doing, and we should hear peace soon. Thank you so much.
Gary, thank you all so much. I want to thank everybody there right now. We know that you're listening. We know that you support us. That's what makes all of the difference in our partnership together. And so really thank you so much. And Laila Tov. I mean, here it's almost 11 p.m. So Laila Tov from Tel Aviv.
Lila,
God
get some
bless.
rest.
Thanks.